through. It looked pretty good. So I guess on that note, we'll get her started. So I want to thank everyone who is attending. Couple bylines or notes. I'll record. This is being recorded, and I'm going to post it to yet to be created YouTube page for the Friends group, and we're going to share it out on our social media channels afterwards for the rest of history. So just I guess from the top, this is going to be probably about an hour and a half of an open house. We'll have several presentations, which I'm really excited about. We have a really good slate of folks that'll be talking today. We have Benny Anderson. He's the executive director of Visit Eau Claire. He'll talk about trail impacts and outdoor recreation generally. We have Bill Kryzak. He's the president of the Friends of the Red Cedar and Hoffman Hills Friends Group. And we have Calvin Kunkel from the Wisconsin DNR. He's our property manager. And we also have Bryan Perry. We're really excited to have him. He's the executive director of the Great Allegheny Passage Conservancy. So it's going to be a really, really jam-packed program. Really, really fun too. So as we go through, if you want to ask a question, we only have 5 folks on, so I may bring everybody on as a panelist. I ask that it'll just make things easier. I ask that you do mute yourself as we go through. And I'm going to bring you on as a panelist right now. So if you have questions, it'll be a lot easier, more interactive, I suppose. So if you have a question, on mute, and we'll take it one by one. So show on the road. So I want to start by just introducing members of the board. Myself, I'm Roy Atkinson. I'm the president of the group. Go ahead, see here, stick on.
Did you say me? I'm sorry.
1 second. Oh, we'll go with Steve. Yeah, Steve's next.
I'm at the bottom of the list,
Okay.
but just joined the organization here, and cyclist from Chippewa Falls, and looking forward to serving the group here.
Thank you, Steve. Good. Matt Buren.
Hello, I'm Matt Buren from Altoona, Wisconsin, officer on the board for the Friends group.
And Dean Roth.
Dean Roth, also from Altoona, Wisconsin, and a board member on the Friends of the Chippewa River State Trail.
Also, a member of the board is the vice president, Richard Johnston. I'm not sure what's going on, but I was emailing with him a little bit ago, so hopefully he'll join here shortly. So let's see here. Actually, we got one person here, a Pixel. So I'm going to promote him to panelist. So we'll see if Richard's on here. On any note, move forward. I want to thank all of you for being a member of the board too. We all have we're either retired. Richard's retired, and the rest of us are work full time, and so it's pretty. Hello.
Sorry, I wasn't muted.
It's okay. So, we all work full-time jobs for the most part and very busy. And so for you to commit your time, it's much appreciated. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our board for serving. And we're also, well, I'll get into it as we move forward for our group priorities. We're looking for more board members. So if you know anyone who would like to serve, just reach out. Looking probably for 2 more board members at this time. So our mission, the Friends of the Chippewa River State Trail, we're in partnership with the Wisconsin DNR, assist in the improvement, promotion, maintenance, and enjoyment of the Chippewa River State Trail. We're largely a cog in the process of linking our users with the DNR. And so we're able to do a lot of fun projects and act as stewards for the trail. And so it's something we're very passionate about. We can point to each board member and we could say, and all the members that are associated, and say, what are you most passionate about? Why do you like working on the trail? And everyone's got a story and everyone is passionate. So that's what makes it neat. But anyways, we're here to serve the trail and provide any assistance based on your interest with the trail. So I want to get into 2020 was just one hell of a year. I think we can all agree it was a year that it just hit us by surprise when COVID-19 impacted us the way it did. I mean, it was just terrible. And so as a group, a lot of our projects, a lot of the things we're working on continued, and we had to overcome. We did a lot of work by computer. So we had a lot of COVID-19 impacts. We had to cancel our annual open house event, which we generally host in person at the Allie Phillips Library in downtown. And as you can see here, we've had good hearty programming the last few years. We've had good dynamic speakers. And that also, we had to think outside the box for this. And as we were preparing for today's presentation, we thought, well, hell, we could provide probably an even more dynamic presentation. And so we reached out to Bryan. So I guess it's a trade-off for things that, I guess things that are bad and things that are good. We learned a lot in the last year. So I guess the big thing is we could not host any events, in-person events, and we weren't able to keep our, start volunteering activities as well. So no events, no volunteers. We had large increases in trail use. And I see Dick just joined us. So we had large increases in trail usage this year, which was really I consider it to be a blessing. It really has been very interesting to see across the state how outdoor recreation has just been a major boom. One second. Heard some distortion. So yeah, large increases in trail use. I know Calvin, in our consultations with the DNR, Calvin mentioned, we had quite a bit of people on the trails, and even across the state in my role on the Governor's State Trails Council, I heard about that as well. You had parks where the parking lots were packed, trail passage, went up, park stickers went up. Our trail, I think, gained quite a bit of users this last year, which was great. We have people going out discovering new places. I can say for myself in particular, I made it out to a lot of the regional trails, a lot of the regional parks that I've never been to before. And so you had people out looking to get outdoors, looking to do new things. So our trail definitely benefited in that regard in our view. So 2020 accomplishments, again, the work didn't stop, our projects didn't stop, things that we do, they didn't stop. And so we had to keep moving. So put a little laptop there because we kept our work going via computer and calls. One of the first things we did is we continued group business virtually. We moved our meetings between Zoom or Google Meet, and we kept it going that way. We carried out a trail stabilization project in last year. We've done this for the last several years, where we've worked on different stretches of the trail, and it has greatly benefited the trail. We've had a lot of folks that have commented on that. We're working with the Knowles Nelson grant to do the best we can to keep the trail going. And it has helped. We also submitted and we were awarded another grant for trail stabilization this last year. So that's exciting. I guess I just bypassed that. We also purchased a new bike rack, bench, and property sign for installation at Short Street, which is a project we're looking at doing in this year. So we're looking at revitalizing, that Short Street area. The entrance sign will be really cool. And I'll also speak about, we have orientation signs coming for those areas too. One of the most important things that we did, we're passionate about, is we continued to connect with regional trail groups and other organizations. We have good inroads with Visit Eau Claire and Friends of Wisconsin State Parks, an advocacy group for other trail groups within the state. And then most importantly, the Friends of the Red Cedar State Trail, in Hoffman Hills, they're a group that is a group we aspire to. They're very active, they're very involved, and they provide a good model. So we're very happy to continue linking with them. Also, we have great partners in Bike Chippewa Valley Volume 1 and Shift, and they're just always doing proactive, progressive things for trails, and we really greatly appreciate them for everything they do. So our 2021 group priorities, we're very, very interested in recruiting another probably 2 board members at this time. So we're actively looking at that. We're transitioning to new board leadership. And so we're making sure that we're filling our board spots up effectively. That's something that we'll be actively looking at. We'll be appointing a new president. I've been rock and roll in the last 4 years, and I am going to be involved, but stepping back, I've hit my 4-year mark. So very excited to have been involved, and I'm going to keep being involved. So I'm stepping back. Someone else is going to step up. So building relationships with other regional trail groups continues to be a priority for us. Being involved in any way possible with any events, any advocacy. I think it's very important. Coordination of selling trail passes is something that we're always trying to do better on and continue to work on. That's very important for us because we capture a bit of that revenue. Fostering group memberships, something that we also will work on. It's important. Everything is run through Ann McKinley. We're going to continue to look at that process as well. Interestingly enough, continuing on with group priorities, we're going to look at re-engaging the legislative delegation of the Chippewa Valley related to trails funding. And this became very important with a trail issue we had out in the Tyrone area, where a bit of our trail is actually falling in the drink. And so we have to look at doing reroutes, and there will be a reroute. But we got really engaged with members of the legislative delegation, and it's something we want to continue to do. And because we desperately need funding for trails, our state trails, and also for our state parks. So just making sure that we're beating it to a pulp, that's a priority. It's very important. So coordinating a letter writing campaign for expanded trails funding, something that we'll try to do as well. We'll work towards. This is something that's kind of lagged out there, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. We're going to complete the install of orientation signage from a 2019 orientation signage grant. This kind of fell to the wayside a little bit due to, for whatever reason, but we're going to get that done. We have signs coming for, I believe, Short Street and Caryville, and their property signage and they're pretty cool. They're pretty big, but those will be coming in. It's more of a supply issue as I understand it, but we're very, very thankful for the Wildenberg family for donating funds for those signs. And we look forward to getting those installed. So we have one that we purchased as well as part of it. That's going to be done. Completing an install of a bike rack and bench at Short Street, that is, as well as a new State Trail signage at Short Street. That's going to be awesome. So that's going to really spruce up that site. And we're going to continue to also look at other grant opportunities as they come. Orientation signage. If a grant does pop this year, we'd like to go for that. We're also going to complete our trail stabilization project that we've done the last several years. We're going to do another stretch. And these grants, when we get them, we've been doing this for the last 3 years. This will be year 4. They're $5,000 grants through the state. They're matching grants. Our group is putting up $2,500 to do this. And I mean, they do make an impact. So if you're out on the trail and you're out by Caryville and you're riding out towards Mary Dean, you'll see that. You'll see that if you're riding towards Eau Claire, you'll see that patchwork. So I really want to commend the state for the Knowles Nelson grant program. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do such cool projects. So we're really hoping as well, when we coordinate our legislative campaign, that we get that through too. They need to keep it fully funded. So Friends membership benefits, we're looking at building this. Last year we were really planning this. COVID hit us pretty hard. So memberships of being a friend, or benefits of being a friend, helping with trail projects, that is going to be big in the next year. We're hoping we can have some events, potential special events, something we've talked about as well. I put future newsletter. We do send out newsletters every now and then. Something we want to continue engaging our group and keeping our group active. So the other thing is activity and trail information. Just letting people know what's going on. I have used our group list to send out surveys. I've sent regional planning surveys. Anything that's going on with the trail, I try to send it. It's a good list of active trail users, and building camaraderie. I think that's got to be the biggest thing. We all love the trail, and I know I always talk about my love for trails. It was born with where I'm from. I had a rail trail right in my backyard just about, and so I had a 10-mile trail connection, and that's what built my love for trails. And so we're lucky. We have a 70-mile trail network, or somewhere close to that. And so we're very lucky to have what we have. We just have to keep working towards trying to make it a better place. So, and most importantly, more reasons to love the Chippewa River State Trail. So that hits home there. So at this point, I really want to give a special thank you to Ann McKinley. She has been invaluable member of the Friends of the Chippewa River State Trail since its beginning, I believe. She's been involved for a long time. She just recently resigned from the board, and so I know she's reading a book somewhere, probably sipping on some wine. So just want to thank her for her many years of involvement with the group, and we'll definitely be seeing her. I know she's still going to be involved. So she's awesome. So thank you, Ann. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Ann. Also, we want to give a huge freaking shout out to Calvin. He's awesome. I am overly effusive all the time, because without him, we wouldn't be able to do such cool things, and we wouldn't be able to be really active. So he's been so helpful. He won last year. He won an award through the Friends of Wisconsin State Parks, and it was for I believe it was like Property Manager of the Year, and it was very well deserved. So thank you. I had heard when I first joined the group, I had heard horror stories that DNR didn't show up for our meetings. He's been to every meeting, so I'm very, very thankful for him and his involvement. Thank you, Calvin. So on that note, I want to first, before I pass the baton, I want to give Dick a chance to introduce himself because he joined.
Thank you for the nice presentation, Roy. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, well, I would just like to second everything you've said. And I want to thank you as well for your leadership and keeping things rolling, especially during this last year with COVID. It's hard to run an organization when we don't get to see each other, but you've done as well as anybody could do under the circumstances. So thanks, Roy.
Thank you, Dick.
That's about all I've got to say for now.
Much appreciated. So at this point, I want to pass the baton over to Benny Anderson. He's the executive director of Visit Eau Claire. He's a great friend, very proactive, and very excited to work with him on trail related items. So Benny, take her away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. I am, like Roy said, the executive director of Visit Eau Claire. I had served on the board and the executive board for about 12 to 13 years before taking over the interim position for the last year and then taking on the full-time gig just a couple weeks ago. I started at Visit Eau Claire on March 1st of 2020. Great time to take over tourism 2 weeks before a pandemic started. And we made a very quick transition as we were keeping an eye on COVID to, we could see on the horizon that we were probably going to have some form of lockdown, that, you know, events were not going to be what they were in the past with Jam and Farm Tech Days and, you know, all these other huge events, as well as, you know, the music in the park and all of the different concerts and events that we were used to relying on in tourism. And when we kind of scraped all that off and looked at very quickly what we could use, we were really lucky to have the trails and the parks and the reliant on outdoor sculpture tour and the murals as well. To have that already in our existence and to have it be such a presence in the Chippewa Valley. As we watched room tax decline to basically, you know, 86% down in April, as a lot of places were struggling to come back, we were able to come back as the numbers receded a little bit for the summer and really have a strong presence in hotels, you know, selling access to the bike trails through their properties and having all of these different walks and, you know, fishing and kayaking and tubing and all of it to be able to have safe tourism. So we really capitalized on that in tourism, and then really decided to take more of a community engagement and advocacy role in that world. We've started a kind of a trails commission to get a couple projects done through Visit Eau Claire and our destination development / marketing grants and funds to help develop a lot of the trails that need to be connected. We have such a great system that spans, you know, all the way from Cornell to Osseo to, you know, Dunn to, you know, all of these different locations. And our goal is to kind of make sure that we put a spotlight on what we already have, but then finish up the connections with you all and then find a way to promote that effectively to the outsiders. So we are working on, we've signed up with an app called Bandwango, which helps us promote not only the trails and the mapping of it, but also helps us promote businesses and cultural arts and tours and restaurants inside of usage of the trails. And on top of that, we have a lot of grants that we work through to enhance, you know, these properties through our destination development, working with the Office of Outdoor Recreation through the state, and then working with a lot of organizations such as yourself to kind of just help facilitate that. The The big part of our presentation is the optimism, as usual, for those of you that have met me. You know, even with the tough numbers that we saw coming out of COVID, Chippewa Valley really held in there better than a lot of the state and the nation. And as we've continued to watch that, we've seen some amazing results locally in the marketing and tourism numbers for trails and parks. The Town of Union Conservancy Park was by and far the winner of that. We started marketing that basically during the pandemic, and they are seeing 5,000% increases in their website traffic numbers. But we are seeing basically 200% on almost every trail and park that we have in our literature. And we've also started to market that very strongly on Facebook ads and Google ads. We're also seeing a lot of, traveler sentiment that as vaccine numbers increases and a lot of the public feels a little bit more safer going out, that tourism is on an incredible upswing, with outdoor parks and trails being a huge part of that. The numbers in January for traveler sentiment, which is how they gauge how safe people feel traveling, how they will travel, and how long before they plan to travel, had reached pre-pandemic numbers at the end of January. And then in February, 1 month later, they were up 1,500% past the highest that we had seen in 2019. So obviously there's a ton of pent-up demand, but also people, they're very excited to go, see events and do all of that stuff. We're seeing a lot of people that are starting to feel more comfortable in airplane, but what we're still seeing most popular is the 3 to 4 hour, road trip to, a campground or an outdoor facility, keeping your group small and seeing your family, and just really getting out to a lot of parks and recreation. So our job in this is really just to help facilitate the work of groups like these. You bring us your problems and we help you try to fund them and fix them and get people connected for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Benny. I'm gonna
Thank you guys.
keep
And
sharing.
I'm happy to answer questions or stick around. And I actually have a parks meeting in about a half hour with the Town of Union, but I'm happy to stick around and talk about anything you guys might want to see from us before then, or anything else that we're working on.
Okay, thank you, Benny. I'm thinking we may, I should have mentioned this at the top, but if everyone wants to hold questions until the end, we can take them at that time. Thank you, Benny. Next up, I have Bill Kryzak. He's the president of the Friends of the Red Cedar State Trail.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. You can go to the next slide. I had a laugh. I saw Abe Smith, one of our board members, is part of the meeting, and I don't know if Abe got on soon enough to hear that, Roy, you only had 4 years as president. I believe I'm at 6, and they haven't stopped, or we haven't discussed it. But such a good group. Found out we're actually established. I'm retiring soon, and when you retire, you have to clean your office. And where do you keep all the stuff? You keep it at your office. And so I was going through and found an old newsletter. We started in 1991, and we currently have about 80 members, including businesses, and a big portion of our membership is businesses. We've put Barb Gorman was a longtime board member. She actually was awarded also at the Friends group a few years ago. It really should have been kind of a lifetime achievement award for being such a good board member. And she got us into the businesses, and then with our business memberships, 50% go to a grooming fund, which we groom both of our trails for cross-country skiing. We currently have 8 members, and very, very strong board. As with every board, you have to have people that get along, and you have to have people that have new ideas. Abe is an excellent board member, and we'll talk more about Calvin later on. We meet every other month. We have an annual meeting in November. Like you, we had to adjust due to the pandemic, and we held I think it was maybe 3-4 years ago, we would always get the same group at our board members or at our annual meeting. And we switched from the senior center, which, you know, being a senior, it had the feeling of a senior center. Okay. And we went to downtown in Menominee at one of the local breweries and coffee shops. And it, you know, it really did allow people to mingle a little better. The Raw Deal we went to. This last year we held it virtually, and I think really we probably had as many people attend as ever. We've always had speakers. This last year, probably, I guess it was my son who does owl research, and down in Madison, and he's kind of turned us on to a possibility of getting grad students to do presentations for us. And what I would do on that, Roy, is I'd certainly let your group in, and we'd, you know, try to incorporate where anyone could watch that, but that's a future. We have a volunteer picnic after Labor Day, and the volunteers, you'll see the depot, which is the start of our trail. During the summer, they have kept that open weekly to sell passes and to just give people, you know, an idea of where the trail goes, information about the city, etc. Two big events for us are National Trails. They'll have pictures of that, and then our candlelight ski. So you can go to the next slide. We have for our donors, for businesses, we have a giving tree. And I shouldn't say really for businesses, I guess probably if anyone individual gave a big gift, we'll put them on there too. But it's been very effective. So we've had businesses just continue to support us year after year. And the tree, you know, because the depot, the tree is seen by thousands of people in a normal summer. Again, last year not being normal. It's just been good publicity for businesses and for us. So you can go to the next slide. Here's the start of our trail, a little fuzzy, but that's going south. So the depot is on the left. Okay, next one, Roy. Crushed, you know, I'm sure many of you, probably most of you, have been on the trail. Okay, and again, DNR keeps it really good shape. I have pictures later about in the winter. Okay, next one, please, Roy. Like all the trails, bridges, a big part of it. It's amazing how many comments we get on the bridges. You know, people just love to ride over a bridge. It doesn't really kind of, you would think it has to be really neat to ride over, but it doesn't even matter if it's a gully. They, some reason, just constantly tell us about the bridge. Okay, next one. Again, that's getting toward, you know, getting closer to your trail. And so a big, you know, that's always a really neat spot. And as you guys know, next one, please. The rock formation, and then I'll show you that later, that forms the ice wall for us in the winter, which is really part of our major part of our trail. The red cedar, I'm talking red cedar. We'll get to Hoffman in just a little bit. Okay. And you go through these, right, kind of as I talk. This is Trails Day. And, you know, always the first weekend of June. And so we have a woman, and you'll see in a second, the reptiles. This has been really popular. For years, we had University of Minnesota bring eagles over. And it was really neat, really neat, especially when then our natural eagles would fly by. It's amazing. The captured, or, you know, the captive eagles weren't very fond of the wild eagles. And but we always get the same 70 or so for that. But now our candlelight ski, we had that in 2020, actually, because we got it in before it's hit. And we estimate we had about 700 people. It's always the last Friday of January. We had a beautiful night that night. It's candlelight ski, but we also have snowshoeing, and we have a walking trail, a hiking trail that night. And so I think it was maybe 3 years ago, Calvin asked me how many people we had. I just made up a number. Okay, now we've taken a little more care, and we really felt pretty comfortable with at least 700, you know, in January 20. So you can go on for a couple of these. Jim and Deb Tenorio, local diehard skiers, diehard trail users, and longtime members. They actually even wrote a song about the red cedar, and they entertained. Next one. there's Calvin and Dave. And I put this in just as Roy had said, we are so fortunate to have Calvin, and Dave has been a great supporter of us also. I have been on the on the board. I went off for a while just because you always feel after a certain amount of time you should. And our friends group really turned out it wasn't being very friendly. The importance of having board members that can get along. And so they asked me to come back and give a little presentation on the history. And I came back and I left that meeting as president. So I kind of tells you, but I will say I wouldn't stay at president. I've been president for 6 years. I wouldn't stay as president if I didn't work with Calvin. I should, there could be someone else that does the job like he does, but I will tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure. And he just makes our job so much easier. So you can go to the next one. There's the ice wall. We light it up for the candlelight ski. We've gotten much better at that. We actually take batteries out there. We have it down pretty good. Next one is, I threw that one in there when I laugh. I stand at the front of, and we only allow skiing on that night to the ice wall. Some people, well, not some, but a number of people complain they can't walk there while walking wrecks the ski trail. And it's kind of just one of the things we do. But that lady on the left, the girl in the middle came by, the woman on the left was just getting her skis. That's her daughter. The girl just took off, heading out. The mother realized that she had the wrong boots on. This other lady went and found her, and it turned out that they all had a wonderful experience. So the next one's really cool. There's our candlelights. Okay, you can go to the next one, Roy. We groom the trail currently, I shouldn't say currently, we're hoping that currently we upgrade. That's a 1991 Alpine. Calvin's done a wonderful job of keeping it running, and this year it ran as smooth as it ever has. Does a great job as long as you don't have to turn. Okay, and when you're grooming a trail, occasionally you have to turn. And when we start sliding, you have to realize it doesn't really show it here, but to the left is a pretty steep bank, and that goes into the river. And I'm not sure how many of you have been on a snowmobile that you have no control of going toward a river, but it adds excitement to the grooming process without a doubt. So we have a fundraiser right now. In fact, I just wrote a grant today. I chuckle because I saved it and it didn't save, so I get to rewrite it tomorrow. But I should be better at it. But that's what we've used, and we're about halfway. A new one costs $12,500. We're about halfway there, and I'm quite confident we'll get there by next year. Okay, we can go on. Huffman Hills. I'm not sure how many of you have been out there. Just one of the coolest properties, 700 acres, so a little bit more. Dick Hoffman and his wife established it by donating 280 acres. You can go on, Roy. I just found this picture, but one of the projects we had that is put on hold, and just had someone call me about it yesterday wondering exactly why it's on hold, is we want to get a shelter at Huffman Hills, somewhat similar to, give you the options like Tower Ridge. We have plans. When you're in a community like this, you go to a meeting and someone knows someone that thinks so we had Cedar Corp help design some plans. We have had people that have told us that they would donate the paint to it, things. And we're just at the point when COVID hit of starting to talk to potential donors. Well, a lot of it is in-kind services, and so it's been put on hold. The other thing with that is it was about a $500,000 project is what we were looking at. And now with current lumber prices, now you're up to $1.2 million. So, $1 million. And so we really have to just put it on hold. Timing's everything on something like that. But we hope to in the future. And I think we really will. And that's being coordinated with the Friends, and with Huffman Hills has an actual foundation account at our community foundation. And Bill Bustick, who's the head of that, and I are coordinating this project. The next one, please. The tower. So if you go on, you'll see, you go to the next one. One more, I think, and we hit the tower. Yeah, there's the tower. Again, if you haven't been out there, it is a really neat thing, and needs some maintenance done, and which provides opportunities also. Now Calvin might not, he might not want this opportunity exactly, but what will have to happen is to get equipment up there, we'll have to go kind of a different route and develop some new trails. And if you've been out there, if you were out there maybe 10 years ago versus out there this last year, you can see a significant difference in the trails. And I'm a skier, and I think they've just improved immensely because they've been widened. The Huffman Hills previously, and I'm a classic skier myself, but you either were herringboning up or you were just flying down, and they're much more skiable for people. And so because of things like improving the tower, well, you end up developing more trails, and we hope to develop more snowshoe trails and just get more people out there. You can go to the next one, Roy. With Memorial, we try to recognize always donors, so it's there. Now, this is close. Again, the back picture, we've done significant amount of planting out there for what is called the oak savanna. And we had, when Dick Hoffman died, we'd gotten donations from a family that wanted to, and just kind of fulfill Dick's goals of always keeping this property. And going back when I found that information from 91, 92, 93, there was a newsletter, I think from 93, that just described how the oak savanna really was just a kind of a buffer system between going from the evergreens of the east to the plains of the west. And so Calvin and a number of volunteers, the optimists, we've had great participation, the friends, obviously. We've planted a lot of trees over the last few years and continue to just watch that grow. It's really cool thing. Okay. This kind of ends it for me. I mean, our goal in everything we try to do as a board is just to make the properties more user friendly. We always look at it and just say, will this help the people who are using the property enjoy it more? And we've been fortunate that, the property certainly needed some improvement at times, and we've gotten good reports from it. We want to provide people, options of enjoying the outdoors. We look at that, how we can reach more people. When I mentioned at Hoffman, we want to build that center. It's an educational center. We've planned it out to where you could have at least 2 buses from the school come out there, and you could easily fit 80 kids in there. So we're trying, again, just, if you start them young, as you said, Roy, you grew up in a trail system. When you start young, you just appreciate it. And then we just, want to help and sustain and improve the resources for the future. So we have an active group. We have just a group that I think enjoys working together. And I'm really, really happy that you came over to our meeting and you allowed us to join this, because I think we can do things in the future. We can promote things in the future, just bike maps, all those different things. And so thank you for reaching out, and I guess I'll leave it at that.
Thanks a lot, Bill. We really appreciate you joining, and we look forward to working with you as well moving forward. I think it presents a great opportunity for regional trail cooperation, and we do look forward to it. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. I just want to do a quick note before moving forward for those that joined. We're holding questions until the end. So moving forward, I want to introduce our property manager, Calvin Kunkel. He is awesome. He is the best. I know we're beating that drum. but he really is awesome, and he's there for us whenever we need something done. We're passing on concerns. He's just very active, and he does a very good job for us. So without further ado, Calvin Kunkel with the Wisconsin DNR.
Hey, thanks, Roy. I appreciate all the kind words between you and Bill. You know, the old saying, great people surround themselves with other great people. I think I wouldn't be able to get a lot of the projects done without volunteers and friends members like yourselves. So I appreciate that. We'll just go into a little history of the trail. And the Chippewa River State Trail is a railroad, old railroad corridor constructed in the late 1880s and then abandoned through the 80s and originally developed through the 90s. 1994 was the first time it was opened up and 10 miles of trail was developed. And then 35 miles was developed through Eau Claire to Menominee. So that connected up the Chippewa River State Trail and the Red Cedar State Trail. You can go to the next slide. So after the railroad was abandoned, it sat vacant for quite a few years. The two pictures that you see are after the tracks were pulled up, and basically it grew up with trees and weeds. So in the 90s, it was developed, and you can go to the next slide. Prep work started you can see 1994 is the year it's stamped on the photograph. So a lot of work to develop a trail basically from nothing. Just a footpath through the trees, basically how it started, and a lot of heavy equipment, get it going. Go to the next slide. So once they got the base down, they used dump trucks to bring in probably 5 or 6 inches of fill on top of the old railroad ballast that you can see around the truck. Next slide. Packing it down, firming it up. Next slide. And then part of the Chippewa River State Trail is split. There's about 5 miles that's asphalt, and then the rest of the trail is actually a asphalt emulsion or a chip seal, which is basically a thin layer of pea gravel that's topped with pea gravel, or oil topped with pea gravel. Next slide. And you can see how the pea gravel was dumped on top, a very thin coat of it, basically. And from the 90s on, really not much has been done with it until recently. As Bill was saying, we have a lot of trestles and bridges on our trails. We've got 10 bridges on the Chippewa River State Trail, or 20 bridges on the Chippewa River State Trail, and 10 bridges on the Red Cedar. The picture is from the one in Eau Claire. Actually, a lot of the bridges are so narrow that we wouldn't be able to get equipment across, or they wouldn't have been able to get equipment across to do the development of the trail. So a lot of the bridge work was done after the trail was developed. So this is kind of a series of how the trail was developed originally. Next slide. And in about 40 years, we've developed a trail system that's about 76 miles long. That's the linear length from Cornell to Eau Claire to Menominee. And then there's another 6 miles or so of trail to Durand. So as a connected trail system, it's about 80 some miles. And then it connects up to a variety of local, municipal, and city trails as well. So I couldn't even tell you the number of miles. It would be hundreds of miles, I'm sure, of connected trail system that we have in Western Wisconsin here. Next slide. Over the years, we've developed the trail, a new trail map. This is our most recent one. So this gives you a good view of what we currently have now as a trail system. And as Benny said, there's always more trails being developed, and the map will be updated as needed. Next slide. This gives you a closer view of the Chippewa River State Trail and the amenities along the trail system. This is kind of a unique trail system that we have because it runs along 2 river corridors for basically its entire length. The Chippewa River runs along the Chippewa River State Trail and the Red Cedar along the Red Cedar State Trail. This also gives us a lot of hassles too in terms of management, and we'll go into that a little bit too. Next slide. Like I said, a lot of our trail has not been repaired or updated since the 90s. It's certainly due for repaving until we can secure funding through some various options. We're currently working with a friends group to do some patching work. This is a picture west at Caryville as it looked a few years ago before we were started doing some maintenance work on it. Next one. And with the friends group, we've been able to do, this will be 4 years of patching work. We've done about, I would say, 60 miles of trail. At this point, we've got about 3 or 4 miles of trail left to patch, and we're kind of on hold with that area as part of that's going to be rerouted in the future. So you can certainly see the improvements that we've made on the trail system in the last several years with just some spray patching maintenance work. Next slide. And future projects, like I said, you can see how close the river is next to the trail. It's continually washing the corridor away. We're continually repairing the river edge, riprapping. With the Chippewa River, it's so flood prone and difficult to even try and keep in its banks that in some places it's better just to not fight nature all the time and try and reroute the trail away from it a little bit. So this area is down by mile 22, the Tyrone area. There's about 2 miles where the river runs right along the edge of the trail corridor, and you can see as the riverbank has completely destabilized on a very large section of trail. Just to do riprap work, we're looking at $2 to $3 million, and that's just for one section. And riprap, wherever you end, you're going to continually have issues. So the river is going to continue to wash this area away. Riprap is not just a one and done thing. You have to continually maintain it. So that's why we're looking at a reroute of this section in the future. Next slide. We actually fixed a spot that washed out in 2015. This is what the repair looked like right after they were done. Next slide. And you can see kind of in the background what it looked like in 2019. We only did about 200 feet of riprap. Right where the riprap ended, the river continually eroded the edge of the trail away. So we're trying to fight a losing battle here. Next slide. And that's what it looks like now. So it's starting to wear into the asphalt at this point. We've got a little bit of corridor left. Hopefully we don't have any major floods in the near future where we have something to maintain. Next slide. And then I want to talk a little bit about the economic impacts of the trails. So I pulled a few numbers recently. we're looking at about 50,000 people we're averaging just on the Chippewa River State Trail. We have a little bit more than that on the Red Cedar Trail, and then we also have the old Abe Trail that runs from Eau Claire up to Cornell. We really don't have very good numbers, especially this year, for user groups or amount of users. We don't have trail counters. We try and average our attendance numbers through trail pass sales, but we weren't doing any trail pass sales in person or on property last year. So I'm pretty sure that number is pretty low. I would say we're well into the hundreds of thousands of users on all three trail systems, especially as running through the city of Eau Claire and some of the other large municipalities along the trail. But I also want to look at some numbers, throw out some numbers. In 2013, there was an economic study of the park system, of the state park system in Wisconsin. The Chippewa River State Trail alone accounted for over $300,000 of revenue. That is non-local revenue into the local community. So that's people bringing money in from, I think it was 50 miles away. This is kind of their number that they use for non-local expenditures. So those are folks visiting the property and bringing that revenue in locally. Statewide, we're looking at over 40 million for state trail impacts across the state. And then big picture wide, outdoor recreation, you're looking at $7.8 billion worth of impact to the Wisconsin economy. Next slide. And that ends my little talk of the trail system and the history and where we're going with it.
Well, thanks a lot, Kelvin, for that. And again, thanks for all you do. Really appreciate it. Just another note for all those that just joined. We had a few people join. Please hold all questions until the end. Then we'll address questions. So at this time, want to relinquish control of the screen over to Bryan, but I'm going to allow Dean to provide the foreword for his presentation. So Dean, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Roy. I had begged Roy for the opportunity to introduce Bryan. I'm really excited. Can I mind if I share the screen here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It says the host disabled participant screen sharing.
No, go ahead.
Who's your sidekick, Dean?
All right. We've been sharing screens for a while now. I think a year we've been into this pandemic and we've been sharing screens. So yeah, thank you very much, Roy, for letting me introduce Bryan. In 2016, I and my then 9-year-old daughter, Rebecca, rode the Great Allegheny Passage from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Cumberland, Maryland, where we picked up another trail on our way to Washington, D.C. The Great Allegheny Passage, or GAP, is 150 miles long, and it's the only trail that we've ever ridden where we spent the first 2.5 days going uphill before crossing a continental divide. Not only does this trail run through a fascinating landscape and historic trade route and along a section of the clearest canoeing, kayaking river you'll probably ever see, it's one of the best supported trails for hiker, biker trails that I've ever pedaled. Camping, drinking water, food supplies are all just up around the next corner, and they even have great t-shirts. I'm really excited to hear more about the trail and what it's like to manage an amazing 150-mile long asset. And so please welcome, and I'll unshare my screen here. Please welcome Executive Director of the Great Allegheny Passage Conservancy, Mr. Bryan Perry.
Hey, thank you, Dean, and thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for showing some photos of your ride. I appreciate, Roy, the chance to be here, and the other presenters and all your good work around Eau Claire and surrounding regions. I'm going to share my screen and go through some things quickly with you, and I'm going to try to get my screen working in the right direction here. And do you see my one slide without any notes or any
I see your notes
see my
and
notes? Then now we'll go to this. How's that?
golden.
Good?
We're ready to rock.
Okay. And you guys can hear me, I trust. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here in Pittsburgh. My daughter is behind me, just like yours, Dean, and we've ridden a lot of miles as well. I'm going to go very fast, and I hope we have time for some questions. In 1978, the bespectacled park manager at Ohiopyle State Park set aside a couple tons of limestone, and because he liked to fish, he had his guys at the very end of the season, right before Thanksgiving, spread out that limestone at about a half mile down along the Allegheny River. And so he could, instead of walk that half mile, drive down there in his park truck and do some fishing, brook trout primarily. And at the end of the next year, he did the same thing. He put another half mile of limestone down so he could drive in a little bit further. And the next year he did the same, and the next year another whole mile. And by then, people around southwestern Pennsylvania thought, wow, we can ride our bikes and go fishing down in that part of Ohio State Park. We couldn't get down there before. And Larry spent 8 years building, very secretly, a mile at a time of crushed limestone path, really for fishermen to use. But bicyclists soon overwhelmed it. And some of them even called the head of DNR, it's DCNR in Pennsylvania. And they said, what is taking them so long with that bike trail on the Allegheny River? And the head of the DCNR hardly knew Larry. He's a couple segments down in the food chain. And he called up Larry and said, this is Commissioner DCNR. What's this I hear about a bike trail in Ohiopyle State Park? And Larry thought, well, I'm either going to lose my job or I'm going to get a raise right now. I don't really know. And he said, yes, sir, we've built 8 miles of trail. And he said, well, you should really finish that trail, shouldn't you? And then the state funded the last few miles to get between Confluence and Ohiopyle, and the beginning of the Great Allegheny Passage was born through that secret back channel work because fishermen wanted better access to brook trout. Over the last many years, we have built a 150-mile trail, and it runs through parts of Maryland and Pennsylvania, through urban sections in Pittsburgh. It was mostly built like you guys have built, small sections under very local names, known locally by town representatives. But beginning in 1995, a strong board president said, look, let's glue all this together and connect all these 2 and 3 and 6 and 9 mile trails into something really big that will attract tourists from all around the region. And so that's what we've done. While we had some 30 miles built before 1995, most of our trail has been completed since then, and the last mile completed in 2013. The Great Allegheny Passage, as it's now named, when we retired the old trail names, now runs between Pittsburgh and Cumberland, and it's with access to Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water and the Johnstown Flood Museum and Flight 93, the National Road, the Whiskey Trail, all the places where George Washington slept in the 1750s. And it's a beautiful, beautiful tourist attraction. It runs through 2 of Pennsylvania's poorest counties and 1 of Maryland's poorest counties. And the real value add is the tourism spend between Pittsburgh and Cumberland over time. Of course, the bigger add is now that you can ride, Dean, like you and Rebecca did, all the way to DC, using an adjacent trail, the Chesapeake and Ohio National Historical Park has a canal and a towpath that runs through. Here's a quick map. The Great Allegheny Passage is in red from Pittsburgh to Cumberland, and the C&O Canal towpath, built for mules, still feels like it, runs from Cumberland all the way to DC. We've got some urban sections near Pittsburgh, including this section that crosses the repurposed hot metal bridge that once carried molten steel across the river from the Eliza furnace over to the J&L steel mill. And this is a 19-mile section of paved trail and good for all the things you can do with paved section of trail: strollers, runners, inline skaters, bikers, so forth. That's more of an urban crowd. We've got a modest section in Pittsburgh Steel Valley. It sort of skirts a suburban strip mall and the sort of the former Steel Valley manufacturing area that has really fallen on hard times, like a lot of Western Pennsylvania did in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There are a lot of brownfields and train tracks and old gas lines in this spot, and we've built a portion of the gap on old gas lines rather than rail lines in this section. Most of the gap, though, is through small towns in rural Pennsylvania, rural Maryland, through the Allegheny Mountains, a large section of the original part that Larry Adams built in Ohio State Park, Pennsylvania's deepest gorge, beautiful wildflowers up and down the Appalachians. Some of the gap is really spectacular, right? We have 10 major river crossings, 12 major bridges, 4 tunnels. We go across the Eastern Continental Divide at 2,300 feet, crosses the Mason-Dixon line, and there's a special park at that location too. So 35 years is what it really took from 1978 to 2013. My predecessors raised about $80 million, half of it private, half of it public, some state, and some matching federal transportation alternative grants to complete the gap. And there's a lot of unaccounted for volunteer labor to both build the trail, and now most of the gap is maintained by volunteers, with the exception of a small section within the state park through which it goes. The last mile was really hard, right? The last 2 miles runs through 5 municipalities, 8 different owners, various little pie-shaped parcels, and it took 7 years to get the last mile completed. So let me tell you how we organized. I have a great diagram for you. There's your diagram, right? It was complicated. The management is diffuse, right? My organization, the Great Allegheny Passage Conservancy, founded in 1995, was to coordinate the work of volunteers on the ground who are already building trails. We now have like 12 different owners, 7 major owners. Some are municipalities, some are counties, some are private nonprofits, some are private landholders, some are silent and some are active. And there are 9 fiercely independent friends groups along the trail, some of whom don't share supplies with one another, and others of whom are very generous with sharing best practices, trucks, and equipment. Together, though, working together, we were able to apply for state grants in both states, some federal grants, and some philanthropic awards to do the major work: tunnels, bridges, difficult sections that the individual groups weren't able to do alone. And then eventually establish this branding, the Great Allegheny Passage brand, with all of its wayfinding signage, to turn all these small little trails into one destination that could really go on a state map and draw people from around the world. Let's see. We've had some successes, right? Here's the Bowman Bridge. It's a beautiful Art Deco iron truss bridge, one of 2 left in the east. We moved this from one county to another to accommodate bike traffic in this area. We faced a ravine crossing and there was no way to get across other than when this bridge became available. And so our partnerships with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation were really key for projects like this. Once the trail began to be completed and you could ride more than 60 miles, you could ride 100, maybe you could ride 120. It turned into an overnight kind of experience. We produced, with funding from Pennsylvania DNR, this book, this Trail Towns, Capturing Trail-Based Tourism. It's an assessment tool for Main Street managers and other municipal leaders to use when thinking about routing and signage and mapping and amenities and traffic patterns and storefronts and how to get businesses to lure in tourists off the trail for their amenities. And it's been adapted and tweaked. The state of Kentucky is using it, and there's several other programs have begun to adapt this tool for their own use. We've got this on our website, and I could send a copy over to you guys if you're interested in harnessing the power of out of region tourists along your trails. We also produced for many, many years these town maps and directories, right, to kickstart the notion that our trail towns are all part of this necklace or network, and that you should stop and visit them all in order, that they're interconnected and they're all connected to the Great Allegheny Passage. Most of these little towns, populations ranging from 72 to about 9,000, hadn't really considered themselves trail towns. These are former paper and coal and farming and coke manufacturing towns that really have had to make a mental switch in the last 20 years to think about outdoor rec as a primary driver of economic flourishing. Here's the crown jewel of our railroad structures. It's the Big Savage Tunnel. This was a huge $12 million challenge, rife with atmospheric and geologic and hydraulic issues. It's, of course, under a huge aquifer, and freeze-thaw cycles made it difficult to dig through without mud and quicksand dropping down from the ceiling. We've had to line the tunnel, and we close it during the winter for 3 months so that the leaky roof doesn't freeze, crack the ceiling, and drop down on you in the next season. PennDOT and DCNR money were both available, but we couldn't afford to build this tunnel to PennDOT standards, right? They were building it to, semi-truck standards, but we could build it to DCNR standards. And so PennDOT and DNR switched funding sources. And so we were able to rehab this old railroad tunnel to a lesser outdoor rec standards rather than, interstate highway standards. Some federal dollars were part of this, and key relationships with the governor's office were helpful. We've worked hard to build good relationships with the destination marketing organizations like Visit Eau Claire in our area, both Pittsburgh, Cumberland on the other end, and the Laurel Highlands in the center. Some of these folks are on our governing board, and we work together to share photos and content and video clips and brochures, and we advertise in their destination guides and vice versa. In return, at least in the Laurel Highlands and in Maryland, we are able to apply for hotel bed taxes to support the work we do to build, to produce brochures and maps and books and our website, things like that, all about the trail. Here's a picture of the Pinkerton Tunnel. This was a $2 million project, and the railroad, the active railroad line had a tunnel right next to it, and they wanted to daylight it for double-decker train cars. They wanted to dump all of their extra dirt from daylighting the tunnel on top of our tunnel. So we didn't really want that, but we said, what we would like is for you to help us rehab our current tunnel. What we will do is work with our county representatives to have you dump your dirt elsewhere on this little horn of land along the Youghiogheny River. So working with railroads, as you may know, is no easy task, but we had the state, the county, a private landowner, and the railroad all working together to get their tunnel daylighted. This tunnel opened back up for bicycle traffic after decades and decades, and it remains a lovely spot along the way. How do you make a whole trail out of the sum of its parts? So an undercurrent in this whole trail building was that once all these little individual segments were done, they needed to be rebranded as a complete trail. So we needed a name and an identity, right? And this issue was advanced really slowly, years and years, 7, 8 years of conversations on the ground with people saying, this is the Steel Valley Trail and forever it will be, or this is the Youghiogheny River Trail North. And we really worked hard to convince folks that you can't get people from Richmond or Chicago or Des Moines to come to Pennsylvania to ride a 6 or 12 mile trail. But if you can build something larger then you can get tourists to come. So we came up with the name Great Allegheny Passage and developed an entire identity and sign guidelines manual, raised $500,000 from local foundations to erect and put in this whole array of signage that remains in place today to make it a recognizable sort of place. This manual is available somewhere on our website, or if you're interested in leafing through it. Not to crib off of it so much, but to be inspired, I'm happy to pass it over to you. One notable success we had was the fabrication and installation of these 2 custom bridges to cross live railroad tracks. These 2 bridges were built in Minneapolis and brought here on trains, set aside off the trains right next to the place here where you see where they were to cross live tracks. And they were all prefab to fit the exact measurement down to an 1/8 of an inch of the gap between the 2 landing spots on either side. And CSX Railroad said, yeah, we'll give you 2 hours to put these 2 bridges in place. We'll stop all the trains for 2 hours. So on the 4th of July in 2011, they stopped all the trains for 2 hours. And we had crews, professional crews, plus volunteers, bring in cranes, twist and turn, drop these things in place and secure them down. And presto, it added 4 miles of very difficult trail in an urban setting. We've had other successes. We lobbied Amtrak for a few years to invest in bicycle service, which it now has on every train between Chicago and DC. And it makes stops in Pittsburgh and Connellsville and Cumberland and Harper's Ferry possible. So you can get a return trip easily, right? The summer months are mostly full here. The shoulder season's a little less so. And of course, under COVID, they cut back service to 3 days a week. That will be returning to full service here sometime in May. Another success we've had is producing this book called Trail Guide. This is our publication, 240 pages. It's a paperback book. We sell advertising to B&B owners and restaurants and trail groups and event holders and local colleges and bike shops and all that. We gross about $150,000 a year. And then with that 150, we spend about 1/3 to produce the book. And we keep about 1/3 to help run the organization. We have 2 staff, me and another fella. And then the other 1/3 we put back into the trail, making emergency grants and enhancement grants to our friends groups. Landslide remediation, flood remediation, repairing culverts. We painted a caboose. We've made a $10,000 grant to the National Park Service 4 years ago so they could do a safety and quality study on the C&O Canal Trail, which they did. And they turned that into 2 $1 million TAP grants to resurface part of the C&O. So Dean and Rebecca, you guys ought to come back when that trail's smoother. We make about 10,000 of these books a year and we sell them out every year. We've had enough success, and I'm not gonna pull our own chain here, but getting these nice press pieces of press coverage nationally has really spurred on tourism a lot more than I can do on social media and my own press releases. So I've positioned myself to be really open to events like this, certainly, but really if I get a call from a reporter, it's yes ma'am, yes sir, yeah, of course I'll rent you a bike, of course I'll get you a hotel room, and of course I'll meet you in Cumberland on the day that's supposed to be at a buddy's wedding, and we'll figure it out, right? And we'll ride and we'll wine and dine, and you can write your story about our work. Okay, trail economy. What does this mean for the economy? You guys have seen the Outdoor Industry Association estimates. These are about 2 years old, pre-COVID. $20 billion on gear from trail sports. $100 billion on cycling and skateboarding. 145 million people participate in some kind of outdoor rec annually. So our own research, we've done 2.5 economic impact reports, 2008, 2012, and 2015, indicated about $40 million generated from tourism along the Great Allegheny Passage alone. And that's a 13-year-old figure. Subsequent analysis suggested that people out for a day ride are spending about 18 bucks, lunch, right? But people who are doing overnight rides are spending $124 a person. That's a hotel room and dinner and ice cream and a beer, something like that, right? We're in the process of a 2020 economic impact report. It's looking at 2019 and 2020. It's not out yet, and I won't spill the beans, but the numbers are probably closer to 75 million just in tourism dollars along our trail. I'll send Roy you a copy if you tap me about that in another month. The trail economy has affected all these little towns, like in Rockwood, an entrepreneur rehabbed an old opera house. They bring in live theater, put in a restaurant. They opened up rooms for travelers. A guy there opened up a B&B and a pop-up bike shop seasonally. This corporate marketing professional, Deb, from Atlanta, bought the esteemed Levi Deal Mansion and turns over rooms at $150, $160 a night. It's a jewel of a place in a town of like 4,000 people. The borough of Ohiopyle, population 72, is known for whitewater, probably the whitewater capital of the Northeast, but it now sees more bike travelers than paddlers in town, just 35 years after we put down our first mile of trail outside of town. West Newton, Pennsylvania, 3 of these buildings are vintage. The green one is new. They're all bed and breakfasts. They're all about 50 yards from the trail. And the increase in overnight guests here in West Newton has spurred on a pizzeria, sub shop, a craft brewery, and a distillery right in town. One of the things we tried to do was collaborate with ice cream shops in all the different towns to do a different trail flavor for their town. It was a great idea, and everyone had a passport and you could get all your different scoops of ice cream. And I'm not going to tell people from Wisconsin and Minnesota how to sell ice cream, but we gave it our best shot. Confluence, 736 people. A guy from DC moved here, opened up this Confluence Cyclery in retirement, and 12 years later is doing a very good business of rehabbing old bikes and selling them, selling new bikes, outfitting folks who are interested in being on the trail. And they've really been part of the long haul change of mind in Confluence, a place that doesn't naturally like strangers. But this guy has come in and convinced all the local people that people with funny accents from the Midwest or down south are really okay, good folks, and you ought to treat them really well because they spend money in your local businesses. We host trail summits for business owners and for trail groups. These are usually separate meetings, but sometimes they all work together. And we, at least this for business owners, we talk about how to make connections and learn best practices. And where do you put your guests' muddy bikes when they show up at 9:30 at night? And how does Instagram work? And what can you tell people about the trail? Or who can cater an event at your place when you're away at a family wedding in May? That kind of thing. Chamber leaders come to this, DMO leaders come to this, political leaders will come too. One of the unanticipated challenges for business owners, especially those who own restaurants, right? Or what do you serve at your restaurant that's been catering to local people forever and ever and ever, right? Cyclists, especially long distance ones, they want protein, they want healthy food, they want veggies. Not all local menus in small town Pennsylvania can cater to folks like that. And how do you price it, right? This $8 hamburger is quite a deal if you're used to Pittsburgh prices, right? But if you're from Alexandria, Virginia, this is a $16 hamburger. And if you're from West Newton, Pennsylvania, or maybe Cornell, Wisconsin, this is a $4.99 hamburger. I don't know what the prices are, but how do you keep your pricing that's fit for locals and for tourists? How do you keep your local customers happy with your menus and serve the tourists? Things like that. How do you make sure your local people get a table when there's a bunch of guys in lycra sitting around drinking coffee in the morning? Trail season's a little slower in the winter. We don't get as much snow as you do. A lot of the businesses remain seasonal. They have a hard time keeping employees. And I would say that during COVID, our surveys show that probably a fifth of business owners are considering closing or needing to sell because of the difficulties they've had. I won't labor on these, but like you guys, we have issues, right? We had an 800-ton mudslide, heavy rains, river valleys all contribute to this kind of a thing. This was a $25,000 project to close the gap for a week. Traffic was down there by 50% for the next 30 days, even once it was open. and getting maintenance dollars is really, really a challenge for all of us. A lot of it's bake sales and 5Ks, and I'm trying to work together with our friends groups to go after larger dollars, either from DCNR, from individual donors, or from private philanthropy. One of our failures is we haven't really been able to cull all the old signage or the non-conforming signage or stolen just installed signage that you can see here. It's a challenge, and it's just such a long trail, and signage isn't a priority as much as maintenance, but this is on my mind as I want to communicate a brand over a 150-mile area. You know, like you guys, we have erosion. This is a bypass around a private business that didn't want a trail on its property 20 years ago and still doesn't. So it's a downhill, narrow section that's prone to erosion. And this was a $20,000 riprap repair, and it's sort of precarious even today. So you can't always get what you want on rail trails. Some current trends: we have a lot of connecting trails and others that we host along the way to try to draw new riders and people into the larger community. Overlaid trails can sometimes be a real challenge because they can sort of bust in and claim that they've done all the work that your volunteers have been doing for 30 years. And it can be a little unpalatable to folks who've really put in labor when you're fighting with national brands along your trail. We've had some failures. This section in McKeesport is along a narrow alley. The train derailed there last year and crushed the trail surface, and fortunately no bicyclists. It's not the greatest route, but again, we're building through, in some sections, an old urban environment. Here's another section where the mayor said in no uncertain terms that the trail would ever go through his borough because he didn't want those people coming through town. Not sure what those people meant to him as a 93-year-old dude, but they were probably people who didn't live in his area. He finally died, and we were finally able to build trail through that little section, right? The last 300 yards in Pittsburgh, yeah, that's a challenge for us here this last little bit. Wasn't designed this way for bikes, right? It was built for an interstate, but we're working with PennDOT, the Army Corps, the city, the Parking Authority, and DCNR to try to deal with a new entrance at the very western terminus. Other trends, it's luggage services for us that are a new trend. A lot of entrepreneurs like Angela here have built a business around getting your gear from place to place and letting you bike without carrying things. One of our concerns is business owner age. A lot of people who started up businesses between 2005 and 2010 are in their 60s and 70s and thinking about moving on. Who's going to buy these businesses and who's going to keep them going to serve trail travelers? That's a challenge that we face and we're beginning to have conversations about. E-bikes, yeah, they're super trendy. It's a big deal. The purists hate them. The guys with bad backs love them. Some people abuse them and they go 28 miles an hour. We're trying to legislate all this, and it's different between municipalities, the state, and also in Maryland. So I don't have a clear look at how best we can accommodate these bikes, but you know, people are using them on our trail like they are on yours. We are looking at charging stations as a way to lure in this crowd before other competing trails get them. That's just a note on fundraisers. We've probably got $1 million being raised on the Gap, not by us, but by people doing great work for causes, right? Breast cancer and Save the Whales and Help the Children and Save the Flowers and all these great, great things. And I'm really working on a strategy with my colleague to get these folks who are using our trail. We're glad they're there, but could they not find another corporate sponsor to donate 5% of their take back to us for trail maintenance? That's a goal that we've got. We've got another issue with fracking and extraction industries here. Of course, Pennsylvania was built on extraction of coal and natural gas, but there's a lot of pressure along the river valleys to put in power plants. There's a Chicago-based company right now that's sweet-talked another poor borough right along the trail to build a gas-fired plant right up next to the Gap. And I have pressure on both sides on my board, some who say, great, it's jobs, and others who say, no, power plants are bad. So I have to negotiate all that. And figure out what the right public portrayal is. So maybe just in closing, to encourage you guys to think about your destinations on your trail systems and the endpoints and how you can harness and enhance the endpoints to get people to come out and do overnight trips, because that's really where the money is. Could you do some combined branding to turn 370-mile trails into a 210-mile system that's all under the same sort of badging and branding? What could that do for tourism for you guys? Yeah, I think those are probably my things. I know I'm over time here, Roy, but I'll pause here and let you guys ask some questions to me, or Calvin or Bill or others who have had a chance to speak tonight. My pleasure to be with you.
I could have listened for another hour, so I really, really appreciate it. I was gonna say, forgive me for geeking out. You could probably see me in the back, like, like my mouth is open. I was really geeking out. Thank you so much. This was you provided a really great, inspiring presentation. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So, and I want to thank Dean Roth for the idea of inviting you at our board meeting. We were throwing around, we're like, who can we invite? And he says, invite the executive director of the Gap. And he's like, get a hold of somebody and make it happen. And lo and behold, you're here. So thank you so much. Thanks.
Sure,
Dean.
I'm delighted. And if any of you decide to come ride the Great Allegheny Passage, send me an email and I'll come ride a few miles with you when you're near my office.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brian. What an inspiring presentation. Thank you.
So at this point, anyone who has any questions about anything that was covered, minus the Visit Eau Claire presentation, if you have any questions, I can refer those to Benny as well from Visit Eau Claire. If anyone has any questions related to tonight's presentation, fire away. See Jeremy.
Oh, yep. Always my hand.
Yeah, thanks, Roy. Thanks, everybody. And thank you, Brian. Really appreciate hearing from you. And I'll definitely be going to ride eventually. And I unfortunately missed Dean's presentation. And after him and his daughter got back from their trip, it seems like 5 years ago now or something. I guess one of the last things that you said, Brian, was about this idea of thinking about those clusters of trails that are maybe partially connected or in the same region that maybe could be connected, and thinking about kind of a way to brand them together and really build some momentum for those overnight longer trips and stuff. And one of the trails that's close to us that already has a couple trails attached to it, I think it's a string of 4 different state trails, is the Elroy Sparta, which is the first rail trail in the country. And that's a little bit to the south. We're kind of on the northern end of the driftless region in Wisconsin, and they're kind of in the heart of it. And I could sort of see us somehow connecting into that. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but obviously the driftless region is probably somewhat similar, maybe less challenging geographically than the Appalachian Mountains, but still pretty challenging. I'm not sure if you would have any comments about that kind of idea specifically, or if you could maybe just expand upon what you said about how to kind of build that momentum with neighboring trails.
Sure. I don't know your geography well, other than the Badger Trail. But I would say this, like in the mid 90s, we had 7 or 8 different local trails, some of which connected and to the outside user were really one long path, but others weren't connected. And our idea, by either making connections or gently retiring old trail names, was to create something new in the public mind of a destination worth coming for more than a day trip. having Pittsburgh on one end helps, right? It's a hub. And once you're in Pittsburgh, you can do all kinds of other things overnight. And definitely reaching Cumberland offered the same kind of thing. And of course, once you get to Cumberland, you can go to DC. For us, having 150 miles gave us a weekend trip. It's 2.5 or 3 days ride. Going to DC gives you a week experience for bike packing. So, you know, if there are connections you can make to offer tourists a longer trip end to end, that's in your best advantage. Failing that, though, one thing that others have done locally is sort of do a half-efforted co-branding. Like the other trails in our area have branded as the Industrial Heartlands Trail Coalition, and that includes trails over a 400-mile section from Morgantown to Buffalo to Cleveland and Pittsburgh. They have retained their local trail names, but they've all gone in together on marketing and identity, and they share a corporate identity, kind of like General Motors, yet they all have their individual identity, like Buick and Chevy and Oldsmobile. Well, bad example, but yes. So together they're able to leverage public attention, even if their segments are managed or held differently. So, but really to gain the long haul tourist, having a core destination at the far end of a trail is a great value. I don't know what that is for you guys, whether it's Eau Claire or, you know, is it Madison or is it Minneapolis or somewhere else? I don't really know. But then being able to communicate to folks, here's where you start, here's where you end, and here's how many days it could take you. Then you've really got something to share and market to the bike packers and long haul tourists of the world.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jeremy, for that question. Next up, we have Dean Roth.
Brian, I want to thank you very much. That was fascinating, and much like Roy, I was geeking out, and my daughter and I were smiling over some of the place names you were mentioning that we became familiar with on our travels.
Sure.
I'm curious about you. What is your background, and how do you find yourself to be the executive director of an organization like this?
Sure. 25 years in nonprofit management in Pittsburgh, primarily in youth serving and neighborhood community development organizations. So I'm a generalist. I know how to organize things. I know how to write things on paper, and I'm pretty good at raising money. And this position only became available because our longtime 23-year board president, Linda Box, who engineered and coordinated most of the completion work, stepped away in 2016. The trail had been done for 3 years. I think maybe she got a little bored. She had a grandchild, was ready to maybe step away. And she said to the board, you should go hire somebody to help sustain this work for the long haul. And so I'm charged with building a healthy nonprofit that can help sustain the work that these volunteers have been doing and to really promote the organization. So, you know, I'm a mile wide and an inch deep, and I happen to bike commute for 15 years here in Pittsburgh, but it's a little cross-cultural for me to be out in rural Pennsylvania and Maryland. I enjoy it, and my whole family does hiking and backpacking, so that's all good. But I'm a little bit of a fish out of water and trying to figure out how best can I bring value to the organization.
Thank you again. Really appreciate it.
I've never built a stitch of trail, if that's what you're getting.
Thank you, Dean. Anyone else at this time?
Thank you, Roy. Thanks, Dean, for having me.
Yep. Jeremy?
Yes, I had another question here. I haven't really studied trails around the country so much, but has there been one that essentially creates a more of a circle or loop, you know, that is really maybe a week long or more? Because the linear nature of a lot of these trails, results in some transportation challenges, obviously, and having something that's more of like a giant circle, like we have in Stevens Point in central Wisconsin, there's the Green Circle Trail that goes around the city and goes into the country a little bit. And I think it's like 50 miles, maybe not even that. But it's not really something you necessarily stay overnight to do. But have you heard of, more of a giant week-long circle or something like that? Because we have like 3 parts of a circle almost with our trails. When you look at that map that Calvin showed, like we're maybe about 250 degrees of 360 degrees or something. So yeah, just kind of want to get your thoughts on that as a concept.
Boy, it's a great question, Jeremy, for sure, because it could benefit a smaller geography more intensely and be more easily managed. The only example I can think of, like you mentioned at Stevens Point, is in Philadelphia, the Circuit Trail system, which is a big loop from Philadelphia out through its suburbs and then back down around again. But it's more for urban and suburban recreation, less for overnight travelers. The Adventure Cycling Association folks, they're out of Montana, have developed a whole variety of rides to anyone's liking, right? Using existing rail trails, non-motorized paths, and bike routes. And I imagine if you take a look at their index, you might find something that approximates kind of an out and back trip using a loop or a square or some other shape rather than a linear out and back. But off the top of my head, I can't think of any sort of loop like that. Like I mentioned, that Industrial Heartlands Trail Coalition, eventually you'll be able to ride from Pittsburgh to Erie, to Cleveland, to Akron, to Morgantown and back to Pittsburgh. So it's a bigger geography than Stevens Point, but it's not a bad example of what you're suggesting, yet those trails remain distinct with distinct ownership and management and branding. Yet the ride is there if they could all decide to market it together.
Thanks.
Anyone else at this time? Well, on that note, I want to thank everyone who joined tonight. I'm going to be posting the video soon. I'm going to create a YouTube and I'm going to put it on links to our pages, and I will send it out also via email to those that are subscribed to our e-list. I want to thank the board for their dedication. Means a lot. We're doing good work. I always come back to the fact that we haven't had a chance to do a lot. We don't get a chance to do a lot of the time, but we're impactful when we do. We make good decisions that are impactful. So thank you. I want to thank tonight's speakers. I want to thank Benny. I want to thank Bill. I want to thank Kelvin. And I want to thank Brian. Thank you so much, Brian. I am super inspired after your presentation, and I've been wanting to go to Pittsburgh. So I might be coming to meet up with you soon. So I will be in contact. And I want to also again thank Ann McKinley. I see she's on the call. And Kelvin as well. I want to thank Ann for all of her years of service, and thank you so much for your dedication, and for bringing me into the mix. You brought me into the mix, and I'm so thankful that you did. So, and Kelvin, thank you for all your work, and we do appreciate you. So thanks for all you do. I want to close just really quick by saying, in the last year, it was a very difficult year for many, a very trying year. Amidst all of that, I found that trails and the outdoors were kind of a salvation, something to turn to, and they were, were something in the dark times that I was able to go to and get away. And it was really nice. So I'm very thankful for our regional trail networks. I continue to be thankful for all the trails that are out there. And I'm very thankful for everyone that is doing good work to be stewards and volunteers for the trails. And I know that same feeling is felt by many of you. And I want to close by saying thank you for being involved, and I look forward to meeting you all soon and being in person. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Troy.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Roy. Appreciate all your work and commitment to this organization.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. Thank you from here too, Roy. I really appreciate it. And thanks to all our speakers. It was great.
So on that note, I guess we'll bid it adieu for tonight. Be looking out for the video. I'll post it. And thanks so much, Brian. Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy trails. Take care.
Yep. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Bill. Brian.
Night.
Night.